Welcome back, everybody, to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions for April 4th, 2015. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, and first of all, how is everybody doing after this wonderful week of April Fools? I hope everybody got the jokes that they wanted, even if they didn't realize that they wanted them. I'm totally excited to be able to talk about some of those things. Now, unfortunately, our panelist Aldo did not make his proper sacrifice to the internet gods, and he will not be able to join us. But we will make sure that he sacrifices the proper amount next time so that we can get him in here. Because I would have loved to see some of the April Fool's stories he pulled out, especially after last year. But I am being joined by my usual panel. Aside from Aldo, we have Stephen Romney of Romney's Reviews and Studio Phantasma. How are we doing tonight, Romney?
Doing pretty good, and technically it is called Studio Ghost because Studio Phantasma is actually taken by a German graphic design firm. It's just I can't change the URL because YouTube.
Dang you, Germans!
Yeah, but so far, so good. I mean, it was my mom's birthday today, so a lot of my day was spent celebrating it with her, and yeah.
And I apologize if I sound a little bit more poppy tonight than usual. If you guys can see, I have a new mic. So, and unfortunately, I broke the pop filter that came with it, so I'm ordering a new one. So if I sound poppy, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to.
Maybe you should put a windsock.
Well, I have like one of the weather fuzzballs that you can do, but it numbs it down a little bit too much, so I sound really quiet. So I didn't want to do that. And then also we are being joined by the Shadow Blazer himself. How are we doing, Alex?
I survived yet another zombie plague from last week.
Why was there a zombie plague last week? Easter? I don't get why there would be. I don't think is this a busy shopping season?
Not particularly. I just had a cold for some odd reason.
Oh yes, this is right. Yes, we mentioned that you had the zombie plague, so you didn't have the spores. We don't have to go and hunt you down, the clicker that you are.
I am clean. You don't have to hunt me down. No spores, nothing.
Yeah, I think this has just been the week of zombie plagues because even I got taken down by a zombie plague this week.
I got taken down, but not necessarily by a zombie plague. I wanted to tell this story because it happened 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to tell it now because this is one of those moments where did Adam feel the right thing or the right feeling? You know that's a good startup, right? So I was helping out my wife with doing something a couple of weeks ago, and she's been working on her Legend of Zelda 4 Swords, the first one, the Link to the Past edition. And she's been doing double screen, and when she gets to a boss, she needs somebody to come in and play the other character. So I came in and did that, and then she asked me to go, and because we hadn't had dinner yet, so she asked me to go and get some dinner. And the chair that we were using, I mean, has been with us for quite a while. It's a good chair, and so I leaned in to just give her a kiss before I left, and literally the chair collapsed right underneath me.
Wow.
And I was kind of in shock. I was just like, what just happened? Because I was just at this height, and now I'm down at this height. And, you know, your first reaction should be, oh my gosh, the pain! You know? But my first reaction was almost like I channeled my inner macho man. And, like, in my head, I was going, oh yeah! I busted the chair! Oh yeah!
Sheesh. But
granted, I was you guys didn't see it, but I was like pretty freaking swollen and bruised after that happened. It was just like,
oh,
I don't know if I reacted properly. Has Aldo made his proper sacrifice?
Has he paid?
Yay!
He has paid his penance to the internet gods. Did you have to sacrifice?
Of board offline, how are we doing this fine evening?
I'm doing pretty good at this moment. I'm hoping the sacrifices have been enough to make peace with the internet gods for now.
I'll tell you what. Next week, I'm just gonna sacrifice a gnome in Warcraft. That's just for you. That should be enough for like 10 years. Because if you sacrifice a gnome, it's good luck for like 10 years. That's my theory there.
Yeah, but with the gods of the internet, they're very particular about some of their sacrifices. I mean, sometimes it's a gnome, sometimes you have to sacrifice a cat, sometimes you have to sacrifice a cat and a Pop-Tart, and then it gets weirder when you have to do the whole pink prism thing.
That's all right, because I already know I'm going to get the hate comments from the WoW fans. I'm playing Gnome! Yeah, I'd sacrifice you in a heartbeat. Sorry. So I just kind of want to get people's reaction to, although you're kind of, were you able to hear my story at all?
No.
Okay, so I'm just going to summarize it. I was going to help my wife, and she asked me to go and get dinner, and so I leaned in to give her a kiss and was leaning on a chair that we had for quite a while, and the chair collapsed from under me. And instead of my first reaction being, "Oh my gosh, the pain!" In my head, I actually just went, "Oh yeah, brother! I totally broke this thing from my knee. Yeah!" And I'm just like, is that the proper reaction to have?
Oh man, at this point, I don't even know. That's
I mean, I feel like I should have snapped into a Slim Jim at some point, but
in all honesty, my first reaction would have probably been to ask, "Can you smell what Aldo was cooking?" Right as I broke the chair in half.
There you go.
The rest of the chair.
Yeah. The reaction I'd probably have would be, it's like, oh, guess Romney Mania's running wild.
Romney Mania's running wild, brother. What you gonna do when these 24-inch reviewing pythons go after you?
Now we just need to assign a wrestler to Alex.
I can't do wrestling, no. I don't.
We'll find one. We'll find
Okay, here's the choice. He's the Undertaker.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Here's what we want to do. Alex, for like 2 seconds, I want you to just ramble gibberish.
Ramble gibberish? What?
Yes, you're the Ultimate Warrior. Congratulations. Rest in peace, Ultimate Warrior. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the stories this week. I just want to have that moment because I actually forgot to do it last week with Careless Juja. And for the record, if people still want to go get access to their album, the links are up on that previous episode's page. And I think I will also be putting up a link tonight on Facebook for everybody to be able to go get that album. Please go get it. These guys are great. I've been able to listen to their album. It's awesome. So, Legend of the Boar Knight. Look into it. Let's go ahead and get into the first story here, and that is Adam kind of screwed up because when he made the show notes last night, literally last night at about 4 a.m., he was not paying attention and didn't realize he put in the wrong link. So I'm going to have to actually do this. We're doing it live, people. We're doing it live. I'm going to put it in the chat for people to look at. And there we go. It's also on our little thread. So we have some Nintendo talk tonight, and it's not good. I really wish we had good things to say about Nintendo. It's like the last month and a half, we really haven't had anything good to say.
Yeah.
So it looks like a fan-made remake of Super Mario 64 was I guess like a final assignment for a software grad, and he was really proud of it. And the screenshot that I've seen of it are really good, but I guess he put it up for people to access, and Nintendo found out and removed it from the site due to copyright infringement. I'm not entirely certain on what actually happened here. I do know that attorneys are involved, so we're not getting the entire story, and that's really the part that I'm not 100% on. I've heard stories where this was a college project. I've heard stories where this is a high school project. I don't know which.
Yeah, from what I've heard, I haven't really heard that it was either for a college or high school. I just heard that I just heard that this guy was using something that he probably developed or helped or was using from college, but this was a personal project more or less. Because this was built in the Unity engine, and there was specifically a character rigging software that is part of the Unity engine that he wanted to use, and so he decided to recreate Bob-omb Battlefield.
Yeah, and it looks really good. I mean, if I were to take a guess, I mean, this would look like something out of Mario 3D Land, at least as far as engine is concerned. Yeah. So it's a little surprising to me. I guess if he was making money off of it, that I can guess. I guess I know why Nintendo had problems, but it doesn't look to me, at least from what I've been able to read, that he was making money off of it.
I'm pretty sure it was a free download that anybody who wanted to try it out could access. I heard about this fan-made remake of Bob-omb Battlefield. It was a few months ago. I think I even posted it into a Geek News chat story, but we never got to it, whatever. but I didn't actually try it out, and I didn't see any demos. I'm sure some of my subscriptions put it up.
Like, I know that that Kotaku had a video. It was either Kotaku or this specific article that actually has a video of one of the people exploring it and talking about it.
Yeah. Well, there's a video actually attached to the article that we're reading, which is on Polygon. I don't know if it's actually usable. We're going to find out. We're doing it live, people. Oh, look, Halo 5 advertisement. Let's go ahead and talk about something else, shall we? I don't want to talk about Halo. Especially all the Halo fans.
Well, I didn't get Halo. I got Evolve.
No, well, mine's an Xbox One, so I've got Halo, I've got Tomb Raider. They had to twist the knife on me. I didn't want to.
I'm on my phone. I'm letting you guys sacrifice yourselves for the sake of science.
You are literally putting in this podcast from your phone. That is awesome.
I do what I need. I do what I need to do.
Yeah, we all do what we can.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so they have a full video of Bob-omb Battlefield, the first level of Super Mario 64. If this was not making any money, I don't get why Nintendo would have an issue aside from it's their beloved mascot.
That's exactly why. It's their beloved mascot. It's their property.
There's Kaizo crap all over the place.
I know.
I don't see them coming down on that.
I know it is kind of weird that.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, yeah, you're right, Adam. There is Kaizo stuff. They're fully aware of like the Kaizo ROM hacks.
Yeah.
I've been watching Gerard the Completionist and Alex the Beard Brothers play through Kaizo, and in their last episode they even mentioned that Nintendo was fully aware that they were playing Kaizo. So you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the Chrono Trigger fan remake years ago that Square yanked.
Yeah. And it wasn't even so much just a remake. I think it was actually like going to be a sequel to it as well.
I think what it could be, because Nintendo doesn't usually tend to be all that gung-ho about these things, except when, one, it's making money, or two, it interferes with some sort of plan or announcement they have to make. And I wonder if this could be some sort of indication or some sort of a sign that they might be planning to release a Mario like HD edition, maybe for their 30th anniversary.
You mean like a Mario 64 HD?
Yeah, or some sort of tribute thing to Mario 64, and maybe that's why they're freaking out so much about this one, because they don't want it to be overshadowed by the fan project. You know what I'm saying?
That could be accurate, actually. Like doing Super Mario 64 3D for 3DS or something like that. That actually is a viable possibility.
Well, yeah, especially since they started putting DS games on the Wii U Virtual Console. They probably would just do a simple port of that even, although it would definitely be very similar to how they just released a disc with the eShop ROM of the not-so-good quality version of Super Mario All-Stars that didn't have the updated sprites for Luigi and all that, so who knows?
Yeah, I'm a little irritated in Nintendo for just all of a sudden doing a takedown notice and copyright infringement. It always irritates me when you have this little indie developer or somebody doing a college project or whatever this actually turned out to be, a project for a friend or whatever, and attorneys get involved. Because it's usually never a good sign. Because when a company like Nintendo gets involved, it's like a team of 30 lawyers against one dude.
Yeah, and especially, even like the stuff with like Project M, which they kind of fought against, but they never sent out lawyers. They pretty much just told them, if we're gonna sponsor a tournament, you can't have Project M, and that was the end of it. And that's
exactly. Or the other example that comes to mind is like the whole Bethesda Mojang thing.
Yeah.
It's just insane, Or I can't remember the one we covered like a couple of weeks ago. The guy who was like really close to another Bethesda property and
it's like Operation Fallout or Fortress Fallout.
It was Operation Fallout, and because of Fallout, Bethesda got involved.
Yeah, I don't think it was actually called I think it was called Fortress Fallout.
Yeah, I think you're right, Romney.
Yeah, Fortress Fallout, and then just like when Bethesda went in against Mojang for Scroll, we had a team of 30 lawyers versus one guy, and it's just like, okay, well, you're going to win. Because at this point, I'm not saying that Nintendo doesn't have a right to protect their properties. I'm not saying that at all. But when you have a team of 30 lawyers coming in and handling corporate policy against one little dude, it just really comes off as that company being the bully.
Yeah.
And that's not an image that I ever want to promote. It isn't the right thing to do, and in that case, if anything, what I would have liked to have seen is bring up Blizzard a lot, and I try not to. The Blizzard approach here would have been if this guy created an add-on that was kind of infringing on what they were doing, but it was really cool, then sure, Blizzard would shut that down, but more than likely you find out like a month later they instantly sent an email to the guy and said, we love what you did, and we want to bring you in.
Yeah, I can do you one better, because there was the whole Metal Gear remake that these group of people were wanting to produce, and then Konami said, okay, no, we're not going to let you do that, but tell you what, come to our offices, pitch a new idea, and we'll see if we can back it.
Yeah, exactly. And I love it when that happens. When a company says, that's a great idea, let's bring you out, and let's hear your story, kind of thing, and see whether or not they want to fund it. Because, look, that still gives the opportunity for the company to say no. But it also allows for this person to say, I got to make a pitch to Konami on this game, and then at that point they can put that on their resume and go to wherever company they want and say, I did this. So that's one of those things that kind of irritates me when companies like Nintendo come in with 30 lawyers and say, nope, can't do it. Especially if it's that reason, although, which, wow, sounds really plausible. Especially since this looks a lot like the 3D Land kind of engine, I wonder if maybe that's it.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as just like a port, maybe a cleanup of it and being released as like a 3DS version maybe of the 64 by 4. It could be something like that simple, and they just don't want to be overshadowed by a fan project.
That's the most likely, I think. Yeah. Because if they were working on that for like E3, and then all of a sudden this happens, it takes away the thunder.
Yeah.
A little bit. But by the same token, though, this is a one-stage remake. This is not like an entire ground-up remake of.
No, this is one level versus one entire game.
So even then, I think that'd be kind of an overreaction if it's a reaction to a possible remake coming.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's an overreaction, anyways. But like I said, Nintendo isn't usually that known for freaking out so much. No. And I feel like this might be the reason for it, even though it's still such a huge overreaction. Sending lawyers to this guy instead of just giving them a takedown notice. It just seems
if anything,
overkill.
If Nintendo reacted to this one guy, then why didn't Nintendo react to the hundreds of thousands of YouTubers that do Nintendo games?
Exactly. It's still overkill. Is I think what Alex is saying is, regardless of the reason, this is just overkill on Nintendo's part.
It just doesn't like a belly.
Well, yeah, and this isn't the first time Nintendo's done something like this. I remember there was that huge lawsuit regarding the Game Genie. That Nintendo was going after the people behind the Game Genie, saying that stuff infringed on their copyright.
Right.
But they managed to fight back, saying, well, it's technically protected under First Amendment rights, as well as... it wasn't exactly the First Amendment, but it was kind of the argument that the attorney representing, I think Galoob was the company, the argument they gave is like, well, if you're reading a book, if you want to start at Chapter 4 instead of Chapter 1, that's your choice. If a player wants to start at Level 3 instead of Level 1, that should also be his choice, and that's why we have those devices. So it's kind of, Nintendo's always been kind of doing stuff like this, and so... Yeah.
Well, yeah, it had those devices. I mean, I don't think cheat devices have even been implemented since last gen, because I don't
they
think...
still make them.
Oh, they do?
Well, yeah, I've seen an action replay sort of thing available for the 3DS, and I know there was...
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't seen one for, like, the 360 or the PS3 or anything like that.
Well, yeah, those ones, they mainly developed them for, like, Nintendo consoles from what I've seen, but who knows, maybe there are some action replay code stuff for those other consoles, but who knows? All I know is that I still see them. I know there was a huge blow-up incident regarding the R4 card that was being developed for the 3DS, and, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get into the next Nintendo talk, which is a little bit better news. I don't want to sit here and talk about Nintendo the big bully, but I am going to call out bad crap when I see it. But this actually was, I think you brought it up a couple of days ago, Romney? that it came out, which was the Smash Brothers Fighter Ballot, which allowed for, if you went to the Smash Brothers website, and a lot of people actually, you weren't the only one around me, a lot of people thought this was a legitimate joke from Nintendo via April Fools, because like, you're going to let fans put in who should be in Smash? That doesn't make any sense. So basically what it allows is it's a tiny little form. They ask for your gender. I don't even know why that matters.
I don't get it either.
Probably demographic data, if anything.
I think it could be demographic data, or it might be them trying to see what characters appeal more to girls, and maybe trying to get into that market more with Smash Brothers.
Okay.
Then you can also say like the character you're voting for, the title of game. I'm guessing like game appearances would be like, have they actually appeared on Nintendo games? Because if they haven't, then there's a lot more problems with that. And then also why you think this character should become a fighter, and you actually get to up to 500 characters explain why this person should be a character. Now, normally people would be asking, well, why are you reporting on a form? First of all, a lot of people thought this was an April Fool's joke, and rightly so. Because I even looked at this and went, that can't be real. Because Nintendo wouldn't want fan input on that. I'm not saying Nintendo doesn't like fan input, it's just normally they don't care unless they're Japanese audiences.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have the possibility of, let's see if I can actually, it's Concord.
Yeah, we have an image. Let me activate the screen share real quick so that I can show it to the people here.
So basically, he has created a viable contenders list. He actually lists out like front runners already appearing, so it's more likely they won't, but they have fighting chances. The problem is that they probably exist as like a trophy or as a weapon, so you have to rewrite the game code to do it. And also possible third-party characters that would make the list.
Not so much that would make the list, but the ones that are being the most requested.
Yes.
But let's kind of go down the list, starting from what we see from the front runners here. Now, go ahead.
First thing I want to point out here is, like, people will notice at the top left corner, King K. Rool, there's a lot of Donkey Kong characters in here. It's not likely that you would see characters like this, and the main reason I'm saying that is because they are rare licenses, which means they are owned by Microsoft now. So at that point, having King K. Rool in a Smash game, I can see Microsoft giving 10 times the red tape that Rare would ever even conceive of giving to Nintendo to get King K. Rool into the game.
But I thought King K. Rool was technically a Nintendo property because he's part of the Donkey Kong franchise.
He's one of those fuzzy ones because he also is a Rare property, and I do know like when the acquisition of Rare to Microsoft happened, that he was one of the listed IPs.
Right, but at the same time, they are re-releasing Donkey Kong 64 as a virtual console title, and he is the prominent villain in that one.
But yeah, that's because they can re-release the title, but not necessarily the actual, like, they can't like necessarily use the character, but they can re-release the title because it was released on their console.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So that's where it gets a little bit more finicky on that, and anytime lawyers get involved with any of this stuff, I just don't ever see it happening because it's way more red tape than a company is willing to deal with. So I'm just going to get that out of the way. So like characters like King K. Rool, Dixie Kong, where I would like to see them in the games, I just don't see it possible.
Yeah, so that would be King K. Rool, Cranky, Dixie, Lanky down here.
Cranky's actually kind of viable because he was in Tropical Freeze. So you could make the claim that they're going to the retro-owned Cranky Kong, and then at that point, that's a second-party studio.
I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate. Say Dixie could have a chance. We did have Diddy this generation of Smash, so maybe not.
That is true. They did add in Diddy Kong after the Rare acquisition. So
was Dixie in Tropical Freeze or Returns?
Yeah, I think she was in Tropical Freeze.
Yeah.
Okay, then she's viable. Because if they can do the same justification for Cranky, they can do it for Dixie. So you can rule that out. It's just like King K. Rool or the Kremlins. Those are Rare properties in some weird way. So I just don't know if those will actually work. And let's just kind of go down the list here because there are a lot of properties from specific franchises. and a lot of them, I don't know if they are necessarily viable, but we can go through them. Although you had a problem with King K. Rool.
Yeah, but I feel like that's just a debate that's just going to go in circles, and I'm just going to avoid that.
Okay.
I think it'd be a great idea. I really do, because I don't see Microsoft doing anything with the Kremlins.
Right, I mean, I think it'd be a great idea, but honestly, I mean, I don't know, I'd rather see more from somewhere else. I like Donkey Kong fine, but I don't know, I'm just playing devil's advocate for King Rool, though.
Yeah. One character I'm definitely excited that probably might get a chance would have to be Andy over here, because we get a lot of representation from Fire Emblem, but not from any of Intelligence Systems' other franchises. I mean, we have
he's Advance Wars, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, he's from Advance Wars, and we have the assist trophy, but that's just showing the units. Having a CO, a commanding officer, from the game would be a good way to give it representation. And I mean, the Final Smash practically creates itself, because if anybody who's played Advance Wars Dual Strike, there's the combined CO power where you trigger both of the effects, or you can have the CO power where you trigger one and then you're able to switch to the other CO. And so, I mean, off the top of my head, if you wanted to create a Final Smash featuring Advance Wars, you probably would just have Andy, Max, and Sammy charging the battlefield with all the various units they're best known for.
Yeah.
And I honestly would see a moveset for him, almost like Pac-Man, where he would just use a lot of assets from the game, where his Final Smashes could be him, not Final Smashes, like his just smash attacks or special attacks would be him using like sprite-based like units or something like that.
Yeah, where Pac-Man creates cherries and stuff like that.
Yeah, the same way that the Duck Hunt Dog summons like the gunmen as well, like that type of thing.
Yeah, like you'd probably have Andy like summon like a Neo tank, or maybe even have him kind of cruise across the battlefield as like a side B in an APC vehicle or something.
Yeah.
Now, another one that I'd actually like to point out to people is on this list and has been there, I think, ever since the conception of Melee. I've seen his name come up every time a Smash game has been announced, and that is Geno from the Mario RPG series. Holy crap! No, I'm not kidding. He got brought up as a concept in Melee, brought up as a concept in Brawl, and for Wii U. And I don't know how many times I've seen people actually step up at Nintendo conferences and say, when is Geno coming in? Because the way I understand that, Nintendo owns a majority of the rights to Geno due to Mario RPG being most of them. I know Square has some hold on that, but I don't think they would actually make a claim to it. Because I would think that would be more Sakaguchi territory, and maybe Square just doesn't want to touch that. I like the idea of Geno.
But at the same time, Square might stake a claim on it because they don't want. Because I know it's kind of the same reason why they couldn't develop a sequel to Legend of the Seven Stars, is because Square had the rights to the engine, they had rights to certain key things, and so it could take some work, it could be done, but not easily. Square would probably want something in return, because if you recall on the third-party section, some of the requested characters you have are the Crystal Chronicles team, and I think there was a few others in here. I might be misreading.
Yeah, you have the Crystal Chronicles team.
The Black Mage.
The Black Mage is also one that they got requested. Those would be problematic.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people may think, oh, but they appeared in Mario Hoops 3-on-3 where you had the Black Mage and the White Mage. But again, it would be iffy. I mean, the reason why we got Pac-Man is because Namco Bandai was actually helping to develop Smash Brothers.
And here's the thing. You're exactly right. Square Enix would want something in return. So at that point, they would actually say, well, instead of getting Geno, we want you to bring in Sora from Kingdom Hearts, or we want you to bring in the guy from Final Fantasy 15, which is not where they want to go.
No.
Well, yeah, or at the very most, they probably would try to say, hey, put in this Chocobo.
Exactly. Something like that.
I would love a Chocobo assist trophy. I'm not going to lie, though.
Like the Chocobo Dungeon one? Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. Yeah. The other one that I'm just going to point out to people because, and I'm going to get hatred and I don't care, I'm going to say it as it is. Earthbound fans, let's speak a little logically. Porky probably won't happen until, I'm not writing you off, but until Mother 3 gets an announcement coming to Western Shores, Porky ain't happening.
And honestly, Nintendo already threw Mother fans a bone. They're already giving them Lucas as a DLC character.
And that's because they've already have everything programmed for Lucas, so it's easy enough to implement him as a character.
Exactly.
But the problem is that Western audiences, unless you played the fan translation of Mother 3, which is still unfortunately not like a majority of the U.S. population, nobody knows who Porky is. And so at that point, yeah, he's a cool little tack-on in Brawl's Subspace Emissary, but like me, a lot of other people went, what the crap? It's a dude with spider legs and he's in a cryo chamber. I actually had to go look up that it was who it was. So I know a lot of people have been asking for this character, especially since the Subspace Emissary. He's not happening. Not until they actually announce Mother 3 is coming to Western Shores.
Personally, the one I hope would make it, if anybody, like if I was to throw my kind of my hat into the ring, would either be Isaac or Crystal. And honestly,
I find Crystal.
Honestly, I would prefer Crystal a lot more over than Isaac.
Yep. Actually, let's do that really quick. So, like, top 2 characters you would like to see from this list actually make it. So,
are we limiting it only to the frontrunners, or are we going by the whole list?
That's why I'm saying 2. You can pick from whatever. I don't care. You can pick the Fighting Chancers. You can pick the third parties. I don't care. In fact, I'm actually going to add it. Top 3. So,
thank you.
So, like a top front runner, a top Fighting Chancer, and a top third party that you would like to see in the game. So, since we were already on Aldo, you want Crystal.
Yes.
Isaac. Isaac's Fire Emblem, isn't he?
No, Isaac's from Golden Sun.
Actually, take away Isaac off of my top 3. So I guess I'm trying to go off of Rami's image there because I don't have.
Need me to scroll down?
Yes, please. So Crystal is definitely my top 1. Number 2 would definitely have to be Bayonetta, and my number 3, I'd have to give it to Halucha, but that's just he's my favorite Pokemon, so that's kind of just like a favorites. But those are my top 3. Would be Crystal, Bayonetta, or Halucha.
The only I think Bayonetta actually would be built for Smash. In fact, I'm kind of surprised she isn't a DLC character already. The only thing I have a problem with Crystal is very simple. I do not want the discussions on Twitter about how offensive it is that one of the sub costumes is going to be her loincloth. All right? We already talked that with the Zero Suit thing. That's why it was offensive on Gaming with the Geeks. If that's a costume, it's a costume from a game she's in.
Yeah, and it's kind of a case of, I actually read a really interesting article talking about kind of the problem people have when they get offended at certain characters, where kind of the way the person put it, and it was written by a female gamer, and the way she put it is that a lot of these people that are getting offended aren't actually doing it like, oh, because of women being subjected in gaming. It kind of goes into the whole idea of kind of propagating like sex-negative feminism and kind of more wanting their ego stroked, because the example they used was the Overwatch thing, but it's the same sort of arguments, and if anybody who's on my Facebook page, I actually linked to this article earlier. It's kind of part of the same issue where characters can be allowed to be sexy. That's not part of the problem. And so I personally wouldn't mind the loincloth costume, so long as they actually did have, because to my knowledge, Crystal has 3 main costumes. There's the loincloth costume from Star Fox Adventures, her Star Fox uniform from Assault, and then her uniform from Command. Now, I understand, not everybody liked Command, but that would be a costume that they would probably want to implement to reference, okay, she's been in these 3 games.
Exactly. So at that point, I just don't want the whole discussion of, oh my gosh, that's so offensive. And actually, it's kind of funny you brought that up because I saw that, and actually that might make a discussion topic for a coming episode because there's actually a lot of viable points to it, and gamers especially need to pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you brought that up. But that's one of the things that I'm concerned about with Crystal is you have that argument, and I don't want that argument. So, all right, so we have all those 3 choices. Alex, who would you want in Smash from this list?
Okay. Well, my top 3, and prepare yourselves for a shock, everybody, because Shadow's not going to be in my top 3.
Oh my gosh, the Shadow that the Blazer is named off of is not in it?
You know, sure, I love Shadow, but you know what? My top 3 picks would be Shantae, Tails, and Knuckles.
So Sonic still made the list. I agree. I understand why you want to do that, and I think you and me actually got into a little bit of a discussion on, okay, if they brought in Tails, how would they do it? Because I really do think you would have to do like a whole new move set for him.
You would.
Because you couldn't just like with Shadow, you could easily skin Sonic and then just put in unique moves to him. But Tails to me looks like way too much of a job for Nintendo, unless there was tremendous demand for him.
Oh, even if not this game, if there probably will be another Smash game, then sure,
Yeah.
for a future Smash game, I can wait. I'm a patient man.
And for the record, I'm not ruling out Knuckles because, again, he's also like a reskin you could do, and you could add Knuckles' individualistic moves into that set, and that's not as much work.
I think Knuckles though is a little bit more viable.
Yeah.
Because what you would have to do is you would have to cut his speed and up his brute force.
Uh-huh. And in fact, I would actually like to see what they would do with like his final smash, because he's like a brawler type. So would it just be him beating the crap out of you, or would it be like him gliding in and smacking you hard? Or he's the defender of the Master Emerald. Can he channel the powers of the Master Emerald? Who knows?
I will finally get Hyper Knuckles yet again.
Hyper Knuckles and Hyper Tails. Shantae, I know, is going to get brought up a couple of times, and I actually wouldn't mind seeing her, and I don't see a reason why WayForward would say no. Especially since they've, at least as far as I know, I'm not a big Shantae fan, but I do know that WayForward has breathed new life into that franchise. So,
Well, they were the ones who created the franchise, actually. Like,
Yeah.
they developed the very first Shantae game, so it's not so much, oh, they breathed new life. It's their franchise.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. I always get the interpretation of that wrong. I always think it's like an existing property because it's fairly old. Like it has Game Boy Color.
Game Boy Color, which Capcom did co-develop the Game Boy Color game, and WayForward. WayForward is the creator.
That may be why I do that. So your three are Knuckles, Tails, and Shantae. Romney, who are your three that you would like to see happen?
Well, aside from Shantae, since Alex kind of already mentioned, one choice I would definitely want to see would be Bomberman, because, well, Bomberman is the nice kind of retro sort of character that would be nice to include as a nice nod to the earlier days of gaming.
Yeah, he's a Hudson character still, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's Hudson's mascot, basically.
Well, yeah, I couldn't remember if Hudson was still around, but
I think they are. It's just I don't know. If they still are around, they haven't been developing all that much.
yeah,
But that would definitely be one character to include as a nice nod to kind of the early days of gaming. Because the problem I see with a lot of people making these lists is that they focus on too many of the newer characters. And so it would be nice to see some other kind of characters that were on the NES, that had some retro titles there.
yeah. No, I agree. Okay, so that's
And that's one. And as I mentioned earlier, one I'd be really excited would be Andy, because it would be nice to get some representation from some of the other like Intelligent Systems franchises. I mean, we've got Ike, Marth, Lucina, Robin. That's 4 characters from Fire Emblem that we've already got. And so it would be nice to see some of the CEOs from the Advance Wars games. I know that there's the CEOs like Andy and Sammy and Max from the Black Hole sort of battle thing, but then there would even be characters from Days of Ruin that I probably would want to see. Like, you probably want to bring in Will, maybe even as like kind of a reference alternate skin for Andy. So that would be the second character I would want them to bring in, just kind of increase representation for some of the other franchises they have that they haven't really shined a lot of light on. And
Heck, that might even recreate a resurgence in Advanced War demand.
Yeah, because I mean the latest thing they've had in the franchise that's been released from the Wars franchise in any capacity has been Dragon Quest Wars for the DS side, and even then, I wouldn't really count that as an official entry.
yeah.
Now, as for the third character, it's a bit of a tough choice because there's a lot of choices in here. But I guess, again, for the sake of kind of increasing representation for some of the other franchises, I probably would want to go with Black Shadow. Because we have Captain Falcon as a character, we have Samurai Goro as an assist trophy. It would be nice to actually bring in a villain from the F-Zero franchise to kind of be the opposite for Captain Falcon. Because, I mean, Link has Ganondorf, and then Kirby's got Meta Knight and Dedede. So it would be nice to bring in some extra representation for F-Zero, especially since there isn't so much for F-Zero going on as of late. I mean, yeah, there's the DLC for Mario Kart 8, But it would be nice to see another F-Zero character as a fighter.
I would like to see more villain representation in Smash, because some of those villains are pretty freaking awesome. I actually forgot the Black Shadow was F-Zero, and yeah, he's pretty freaking cool. And I will point out that one of the fighting chancers is one that we brought up a couple of dozen times, and that's Ridley. That's probably not likely. He's way too embedded into that stage, and I actually kind of like him there. I would actually want to wait until the next game or next entry to bring in Ridley as a villain. But I think you bring up a good point, Rami, because we need more villains in it. You know, just having Bowser and Ganondorf, it just isn't enough after a while. So those are your 3 picks. Mine are going to be a little bit more varied because I'm kind of looking at this also very logically. There are a lot of characters, particularly from the third parties, that I would like to see, but I just don't see the viability for them. So the ones that I actually think are viable, let's just go from the front runners here. I really do think Blaziken is very viable because he is a fighting type, and Greninja, I actually like the fight set for Greninja. And I think if they were going to do a Pokemon, they would stick with the fighting types to make it worthwhile. And I think Blaziken is newer than Machamp, and therefore would stand more of a chance.
Well, especially since you have Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby still on the market.
I personally hope that if they do any Pokemon, it's just not Blaziken, because I feel that, like, as a Pokemon fan myself, we've had too much Blaziken being shoved down our throats since like X and Y.
I agree, but you know, when the choices that are being offered in this one are Sceptile, Hawlucha, and Machamp, I really do think the viable candidate there is Blaziken.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree. It's just I don't know.
I think that's viable. I would like Geno just because I love Mario RPG, and I would love to be able to have that nod. I don't think it will ever happen, but congrats if you can make it work. My other viables would probably be Bayonetta, because that is a great idea. And I'm just going to put this in as kind of a fourth little I really wish but it's never going to happen, and that is Shovel Knight, because I would love a lot of indie love. I'm not necessarily saying it has to be Shovel Knight. Just find an indie property and give some love.
Well, yeah, because look at how one of the ones that a lot of people would want would be Quote from Cave Story.
Yes, you know, I think that would be a great step in the right direction for Nintendo to show some indie developers some love and say, yeah, we want your character for Smash Brothers, and you'll get, you know, this royalty because of it and all that. I think that would be a great idea. I will also say that, you know, there are a lot of Capcom and Konami properties in here in third parties. Phoenix Wright, Beautiful Joe, Amaterasu. I don't see them happening because they kind of already had their moment to shine in MVC3.
And Tatsunoko versus Capcom in the case of these two here.
Yeah. But then again, Tatsunoko versus Capcom was a Nintendo exclusive.
It was. That's where it becomes viable.
Well, yeah, and Beautiful Joe's first game was on the GameCube. So out of those three, he would probably be fairly likely, mainly because the move sets for Beautiful Joe are easier to visualize. Phoenix Wright, he would work better as an assist trophy than as an actual fighter.
And to be perfectly honest, I think Beautiful Joe is a lot more viable than Wonder Red from Wonderful 101, because I may be wrong about this, I don't think that was one of the Wii U games that did very well.
Yeah, it did not do that well in the sales numbers. I mean, it got good reviews, but just not a lot of people bought it.
I never played Wonderful 101, but I wonder if his moveset would be similar enough to create an alternate skin.
A skin, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, put in Beautiful Joe, and then make Wonder Red a skin that you can get.
Or maybe they might just do an inverse where they put Wonder Red, but then have a costume that references Beautiful Joe.
Right.
Because that would be easier to do, kind of from a legal standpoint, where I could say, oh, it's just similarly colored, but without actually explicitly stating that it's based on Beautiful Joe.
Right, like the Banjo-Kazooie skin for Duck Hunt Dog.
There you go. Banjo, that's how they get him in. Because Duck Hunt Dog is the douche that can make it happen.
Yeah. And as much as I would like to, Simon Belmont probably doesn't have much of a chance.
No. Especially now with the resurgence
I love
of...
Castlevania. He has no chance.
But Lords of Darkness has been too good of a title, and I don't think they'd be willing to let them reference something that wasn't from that particular game.
Oh, Lords of Shadow. Is what
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah, that's why I don't think it's viable, because Castlevania, even though it's had a good representation on handhelds, it's not like if they were going to go to Konami, they would go and get Snake again. They would not
Yeah.
get the Belmonts, which I don't think is going to happen because of the whole infighting that's going on with Kojima and Konami right now. So let's go ahead and get into the next story here, and this one's a little bit of a hot button issue. I'm just going to bring it up because I don't want to be the person who gets the crap thrown at him for not talking about it. So first of all, I know there are a lot of PlayStation, you guys started in the PlayStation generation. How many people actually played this franchise, Oddworld?
I have played a game of it.
I've
Oh,
not played it. No.
so you are not a fan, Aldo, is what you're saying.
I would call myself a small fan, but I'm not a big fan of their original games. I played Stranger's Journey.
Oh, Stranger's Wrath.
Yeah, but I liked it, but I guess not enough to really go back and pick up the other games.
Yeah. Romney, what about you? Have you played Oddworld at all?
Nope.
Okay. So we're all going to be approaching this from a very kind of unbiased point of view. Lorne Lanning, the creator of Oddworld, I get Oddworld. Okay, I'm just going to point that out to the Lorne Lanning fans that are going to jump down my throat after this. I get Lorne Lanning, and I get that he's been able to do such a wonderful product given some of the problems that he's had over the years, and I get it. I never played Oddworld, and I probably never will, and the reason being is the message that that game really just tries to hammer into your head the entire time, and that's like we actually had for me and Alex, we run a LP channel. We actually had a suggestion for the Oddworld series, so I went and did my homework. And it's a cinematic platformer, which is great, and it looked good, but I'm not really big into cinematic platformers. Plus, the story was really, really weird, which it should be, and also it's Lorne trying to put agenda into his games. Well, he came out recently and made some statements that have been inflammatory as far as the internet is concerned, because it has made people go into their armed camps, but he kind of is making some points. So for the people who are going to jump down my throat and say, well, you're not giving Lorne his pieces, I agree with him in part on some of the things he said. I just don't agree with everything. In particular, I'm actually going to actually quote him from the article that I've got from IGN here. So this is the quote. The budgets are going up, and now publishers are saying, now we're spending $20 million on a title and not $5 million, and at $20 million we need better terms. You're going to do 10 times the work, but you're going to get a fifth of the backside because we're risking all this money. Depending on how savvy they would be with the deals, usually they never made money. This is in reference to current developers on current games like AAA titles. Depending on how savvy they would be with the deals, usually they never made money. Most developers never really made money. They were able to stay in business, but the way the deals were structured, they were basically dead. This is the problem that I have. He's later asked whether or not capitalism is hurting games, and his viewpoint is, and I quote, "I think it's killing the world." Okay. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second because first of all, this is Lorne Lanning. He's made it very clear in his games and also in his ideology. I don't hate him for that.
If you're interested in the Oddworld games but don't want to play through them, I recommend going to Katakris' channel and watching his 3-part introspective. And you do see that Lorne Lanning is very anti-capitalism. He's very against Big Brother type politics. It is very much in his nature, and so I'm not that surprised to hear him say something like that.
No, as far as I am concerned, this is something that is very normal, run-of-the-mill for Lorne Lanning to say. And for the people who are going to say that I don't officially agree with him on that, okay, I'm going to point this out. I am like Linkara. I have admitted wholeheartedly I am a capitalist, and I appreciate being able to make money and being able to do the things that I am able to do. So I don't necessarily agree with him on this. However, before you jump down my throat, I do agree with stuff he said later, which was that I really do think the game industry's salvation is going to lie with indie developers. I believe this because AAA titles are having some issues right now, and I really do think that until they get those issues kind of sorted out, I would love to see indies step up and take charge, because they have really been able to do that the last couple of years.
Yeah, but on that same note, a lot of people think, oh yeah, I guess the thing that bothers me about that statement is, well, what does it mean by the gaming industry's salvation? I mean, because this is something that bothers me because it's the same thing that's... Well, yeah, that's a term that just bothers me because people tend to think that artistic creativity and making money are at odds with one another, but in my experience, they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, yeah, is it hard to get a creative idea out the door and to the public? Well, of course. But
talk to Warren Lanning. I mean, look at the headaches he's had to go through getting the Oddworld series out.
Or just look at games in the past. I mean, look at what it took to get the original Doom on the shelves, or take a look at what... It's kind of the case of a lot of people think, oh yeah, well, constantly being hampered creatively, but I'm kind of the opinion that when some people are limited, then that's when they can be a little bit more creative because they have certain things they can't do, so they have to get creative with what they have. That's why, for example, a lot of people like the original Star Wars film where there was those limitations, as opposed to a film like, well, Star Wars Episode 2. It's kind of the same case. It's that whole art through adversity aspect of it. And so that's kind of why it bothers me in the sense of, oh yeah, the budgets are getting inflated. Well, yeah, that happens with every medium. I mean, a lot of people think, oh yeah, films, they're all the same, blockbusters and stuff. But that's partially because people aren't sure where to look for the actual artistically strong projects. I mean, a good example of a film that would have been a blockbuster, but is also artistically ambitious, would be Snowpiercer. And it's the same case with games, that there are some games that do have those inflated budgets, but still accomplish some artistic stuff. I mean, are some companies kind of hurting the industry with yearly franchises? Of course. But everybody thinking that, oh, indie developers are going to save the industry, people speak in hyperbolics, and that's kind of what bothers me about that statement, is that it thinks that it's all one way or another, but really, the games industry is just going through what film as a medium went through, where instead of it being kind of a medium for the kids, it's going through a case where people are realizing that games can be made for different types of audiences, and so the thing that's motivating them is money. And that's just a sad reality of the world, is that money is what motivates development of any kind.
Makes the world go round. So
yeah, so the whole notion of, oh, indie developers are going to save the industry. Well, what does save the industry actually mean, people?
Well, let's expand on that, Romney, because one of the things that I also don't like, and I like the fact you brought up hyperbole, because a lot of people are just approaching this on the game industry is dead kind of thing because we are having all these broken games come out. I don't necessarily believe that because, yes, where you have broken games like Battlefield 4 or, I don't know how well Cops and Robbers Edition is doing, you also have developers that do care and are putting their all into their games. So at this point, when you kind of reach the hyperbole version of it, which is it's dead and the only way to make it survive, that's really like taking everything to the corners and saying, yeah, we're a caged animal backed into a corner, when that's not the situation. There are still developers that are showing a lot of artistic license, and to state that the game industry is dying, it discredits them, and that's a problem. As much as I've given crap to Bethesda, I'm not going to give them as much crap about the bugginess with their games because their games are huge. A lot of those bugs are discovered when they're released. So that's fine because at least they're willing to work with people and patch those things out. And I interrupted Aldo. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I interrupted you. I think part of the whole video games is dead thing that we get the argument from is that we get copy cutter video games that kind of come out, and those are the ones that make money. We get that whole argument that people don't know what they want. People just want to get the same crap over and over again. That's why GTA sells so much. That's why Call of Duty sells so much. That's why Assassin's Creed sells so much. And I think the people that say the game industry is dying is the people that want, I guess, quote-unquote, artistic games. And those are the people that say indie games are going to save us, because indie games is where we get games like Gone Home. That's where we get Shovel Knight. That's where we get, just a ton of other, I guess, more creative, just different games. And
Yeah,
I
think it's life. It isn't the salvation. It's more like it's new meat.
but at the same time, everybody talks about the film industry being an artistic genre and an artistic medium, but we also have those cookie cutter movies. How many Liam Neeson old guy saves his daughter movies are we gonna get? We're gonna get a ton of him. We're gonna get Sean Penn is banking in those checks now. We get those cookie cutter things.
Well, yeah, look at the Marvel movies and just how that.
What are you trying to say, Aldo? Mind you.
I mean, like Rodney has a point. How many of the Marvel movies specifically are a reskinning of almost Iron Man? It feels like they're all like a reskin of Iron Man.
They really are. I mean, when you let's just take the first round of stuff before the Avengers. A lot of the Iron Man formula was implemented in those films. I mean, I can't speak for Incredible Hulk. I never saw it, but Thor, I can tell you that there were a lot of that cookie cutter strategy in there. Captain America had the exact same thing. In fact, Winter Soldier had a lot more of it. So I can tell you the cookie cutter stuff is there. And I mean, I can't avoid saying this. I mean, there are cookie cutter directors. Michael Bay, because it happens. I mean, that's just the way it is. You're going to have cookie cutter in any industry. It's just going to happen. So at that point, to go to the extremes and say this industry is dead, not so much, because for every Michael Bay, there is. I don't want to. I was going to use Peter Jackson, but I don't want to go there.
A better example would be like for every Michael Bay, there's a James Wan.
There's a James Wan, or there's a Neil Blomkamp.
I was gonna say a Del Toro.
Yeah, or a Del Toro in development, and so at that point, you discredit them.
Yeah, I remember there was even a gag article on a website of saying, "Oh, anime is officially dead," because you see the same thing in the anime industry as well, and it's just kind of the same basic case where, at the end of the day, yeah, these things may have started out as artistic expression, but if you want anything to really vibe, you got to be able to make money. I mean, that's why we have stuff like Patreon nowadays, because it's trying to bring back the system of having patrons of artists. Because, well, I mean, if I wanted to make YouTube videos for the end of my days and have that be my job, that would be absolutely perfect. But reality isn't being so kind. That's why I have to work a 9-to-5 job every single week.
Yeah, and here's the thing that kind of irritates me with Patreon is, wow, YouTubers that advertise that get the crap kicked out of them a little bit, and that's not cool, because this is their livelihood. People like JonTron want to be able to make money off of what they love. And when I see like Twitter comments saying, "How dare you do that? You're selling out," they're not selling out. They just want to be able to make a living off of what they love, and it's such a rare thing to be able to do. So I mean, I can only name like maybe a few people off my hand that have been able to do it substantially without having to have like a 9-to-5 job supporting it.
And without Patreon, like Smosh, and even then with Smosh, they worked hard for years before they could get to where they are now.
Yeah, and so at that point, when I see Patreon's up, that actually makes me a little bit more worthwhile to listen in, because it's like a tipping system. If I like the video, I can tip for it. You know, I especially like that people like from Back Out of the Glasses are also considering things like Patreon. I know Linkara has one. I also know that one of the biggest stinks between Obscure, I'm going to say this wrong, Alex, and you're going to have to correct me, Obscurus Lupa wanted to get that and got crap for it. So, I just don't understand. But anyway, we actually have gone into this way too much. So I just want to at least, because we actually had people requesting, can you please talk about the Lord Landing comment? We've talked about it. I allow him the option to say what he wants to say, and good on him. He's a good developer. I'm not gonna deny him that, and he has some clout to be able to say these things. He's gone through some crap, okay, especially since he was dealing with the devil that is EA. Yep, that's right. I said it. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the next one. Now we actually have a lot of entertainment stories. So the entertainment hour starts now, because we will be talking about April Fools, but there were entertainment stories along with tech stories. And what I've basically done here is I've told the panelists of the show to pick your top best 3 April Fool's jokes. They're not limited by tech. They're not limited by entertainment. You can pick whatever you want, and we're just going to go through that, and then we'll be able to get into some of these other stories. But I've made precautions just in case. So unless somebody wants to go first, I do want to actually share a story, and Alice is not going to be happy about this.
Yeah, it gets to embarrass me now.
Yes, because that's what I do. Yes, I'm so evil to Alex. Can you tell the hatred and vitriol that comes off of my mouth? So I actually played a little bit of an April Fool's joke myself. It just so happens that I was doing something early that day, and I saw some of the April Fool's jokes that had come in. And one of them I knew that Alex would not appreciate, which was the Sonic 06 remastered. Because I knew it was a joke, but I knew that also Alex would not have maybe registered that it was April Fool's. So I sent him a text and said, "Oh, dude, are you excited? Excited for what? Sonic 06 remastered for PS4 and Xbox One." And literally, and I can't quote it, but I have the text here, "You've got to be effing kidding me."
He was.
To which I actually sent back, "Yeah, I am kidding you. It's an April Fool's story." He's like, "Oh my gosh." I can't even remember the text you sent me. It was like, "Oh my gosh, for a second I thought that was real."
Well, unfortunately, considering Sega's in a bit of a pinch, I figured they might be desperate enough to be, and might be foolish enough to do that. And you picked on me, you picked on me. I'd been up since 6 in the morning. I had to go into work that morning. Thanks a lot, Adam.
I think we found the episode title, Adam is Cruel. And also the second one that I actually did this twice. I also did it to my wife, and she's kind of mad at me for it too. I also caught the story of the Fast and the Furious teaming up with Back to the Future.
Oh, you took one of mine.
Well, no, bring it up. I'm just saying, I brought that up to her because I didn't leave in the Fast and the Furious stuff. I'm like, "Oh, look, a new Back to the Future movie. Oh my gosh, that's totally awesome. Yeah, they're teaming up with the Fast and the Furious." Huh?
You know, to be honest, I actually would want to see that.
Yeah, the Fast to the Future trailer was actually so well done, like a teaser. Because it starts out with the 2 lines of flame from the DeLorean, and it closes in on the out of time license plate. And it switches to the scene. If you haven't seen it, there's a scene in Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift where they're drifting through the Shibuya crossing in Japan, and like the sea of people splits so that the cars can drift through, perfectly, because that's how logic works.
Yeah, in the Fast and the Furious universe.
Oh yeah. So it was a DeLorean, but it's all technoed out, and it's doing the drift through Shibuya Crossing Station, and it does a close-up of Vin Diesel going like, he says some stupid line, and then he...
Yeah, it's not like an 88 miles per hour joke, but...
No, it's not. It's a Fast and Furious line. I can't remember what it is. And then it cuts to the car, like, straightening up and speeding up into 88 miles an hour and just goes.
Yeah.
I was like, yes.
Because I'm not a Fast and the Furious fan, but I'd heard about that. So when it just so happened, like, at the time we had HBO and it was on, I'm like, I have to see this, just to see it. And it was worth it. Because I know it wasn't like, he didn't make an 88 miles per hour joke, but it was a very subtle quote, and then all of a sudden, boom, we had that joke, and it was awesome. The other 2 stories that I'm going to bring up, and because those are kind of count as one story for me, because I got to be a troll, because yay me. One of the ones I love is CERN confirms the existence of the Force.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I loved the pictures of that. That was awesome. And I thought that was the greatest thing they could have done, because CERN, that actually had people on my Facebook thread, and I'm not going to say names, that thought it was true. That thought CERN had confirmed the existence of midichlorians and in the Force. So that was pretty freaking awesome to watch unfold, and they go, "Ah, crap, it's not real." The other one that I will give credit to is this is just kind of a call out to my brother because he was the one that brought it up to me. My brother's been getting me into Game of Thrones, and so when I saw the Game of Thrones clue,
Oh.
Game of Thrones clue, what the crap? Who is Joffrey's dad? You don't have to think about it. So those are mine. Aldo, what are your top 3 favorite stories of April Fool's 2015?
So my first one has to be the Fast to the Future one.
Yes.
Because I caught that one as I was scrolling, so I had to do like a double take. And as soon as I saw the name for it, I was like, yeah, this is an April Fool's. This is an excellent April Fool's. My second one has to be Strong Bad. They started. They brought back. Sounds like they're going to be bringing back Strong Bad emails. But it's this fantastic like about 3-minute YouTube video where he's reading email off of his kitchen appliances. So he puts something in the microwave and it starts going like, "Hey, Strong Bad, when are you going to start checking your emails?" He's like, "Have I always been reading my emails on kitchen appliances?" It's written on his toast. He pulls out. It's on his fridge.
Yeah,
it's just all over the place. So he goes to his old computer, and it's just a pile of dust from the fact that he hasn't looked at it in like 4 years.
Yeah.
He blows the dust off, and it becomes a brand new laptop. And he's like, "I compressed all the dust off of my old computer into a brand new laptop, because that's how technology works."
Oh, man.
And so it trolls you with that. He opens up his email exe, he presses enter, and it just cuts off.
Well, I love that one. I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think my third one, it didn't fool me for like a moment, but just how great it is probably I have to give credit for it. But it was the BioShock Infinite Steam box. From Geek, yes.
That was great.
Which is literally a computer that's being run on by Steam.
Yes, and I thought that was the greatest thing ever. I also like the fact that they were trying to. I don't know if you noticed it, but like it wasn't. I don't think it was the people who do BioShock. It was somebody else actually trying to post off Vigors as like drinks.
What? Yeah.
Like having a cherry flavor being this. I can't remember who did it, but it was like they cleverly photoshopped the Vigors to have like a cherry flavor or a grape flavor, and they were all the BioShock Infinite Vigors. It was great.
Oh wow!
Like Old Man Winter was blue raspberry or whatever. It was great, and I can't even find the link now, but it was awesome. So those are your 3. Alex, your top 3 April Fool's jokes aside from Drac being a total troll to you.
I don't have 3. I didn't see much in the way of April Fools. I was kind of hermited into just watching YouTube all day. So.
Yes.
I have at least a couple, I guess, but there was something I don't even know if this is true. I only heard this secondhand, and I think if it's true, then it could have been a perfect April Fool's prank. But I heard this again secondhand that on Twitter somebody discovered in the if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of Monica Magica, and somebody I guess on the official Monica Magica Twitter they were teased there was a tweet that was teasing about a new series finally, or a new movie finally, because it's been a couple of years now since the 3rd movie. And so unfortunately I can't say that's for sure. I only heard the second hand, but I'm sure that would have been an April Fool's prank that they would have pulled, and I would have liked to have seen that.
Okay.
Okay, there was one other thing that came up, and that was Bob Samurai's Anime Reviews. He did a little joke video called Anime Banned in USA, and he did it like a whole joke newscast, and using goofy names like Oliver Pepperoni and Chris P. Bacon. And, I suggest look it up, actually. It's still available, so look it up. It's pretty entertaining and amusing. Bob Samurai Anime Reviews. He's entertaining as can be.
Okay. All right, and then Romney, your top 3 April Fool's jokes of 2015.
Well, I didn't really see any
If
major
people are
news
concerned
stories.
we're not going to bring up some of the big ones. We will. Trust me.
Well, yeah, I didn't see any of the major news stories, but I did see some of the April Fool's videos that popped up from various creators. I mean, one that was kind of interesting because it was a nice fake out was Pro Jared's top 10 boobs in gaming, and just how it completely fakes you out.
I
which,
love it. I
Yeah.
applaud him for that.
Yeah, that's like my bottom three of the three that I'm choosing. Another one I really liked was that Linkara did a History of Power Rangers video that was a fake review of the reversioned version of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I especially liked how, in addition to saying, "Oh yeah, this show completely sucks," how he referenced the fact that a bunch of people have been posting his videos on YouTube. Like, don't forget to like and comment on the YouTube channel that uploaded this without my permission.
I love the fact that he rented it. I'm kind of glad we were able to bring that up because that was a great moment for Linkar as far as I'm concerned, especially since he got to lash out at all the people who upload his videos, especially since he is on YouTube. Okay, I don't know how many times a lot of people have, but well, he's not even on YouTube. Why would he care? Yeah, he is. I'm subscribed to his channel. Yeah, Linkara atop the fourth wall. He's there. And so at that point, he has every right to be pissed that these people basically pirated his stuff and are getting ad revenue for it.
Yeah. And
So,
as for my absolute favorite April Fool's video, that would have to be Gaijin Goomba's Pachinko video, where it's like, oh yeah, this high-speed gambling game. Let's see what made it amazing. It's just he just shows footage of the Pachinko game in action, doesn't even say anything.
yeah.
Just lets it go on forever.
Yeah, didn't he do that under the guise of a culture shock or something like that? Like it was supposed to be informative, and then it was just nothing but pachinko.
Well, yeah, basically talking. Oh yeah, this intense gambling gave it a whole setup thing, and then it's so let's see how intense this is and why it is too intense for the West, and then it just shows.
Yeah, it works. So, all right, these are great April Fool's stories, but obviously a lot of big ones have not been brought up. So I'm just going to go in through these as quick as I can, and then we're going to get into some of these other stories. First of all, I think if I didn't mention this, people would smack me around, which was the hint at Battle for Middle-earth 3, Battle of the Five Armies, which a lot of people thought was real. You know, that EA was going to, or I think it's EA that owns it, they were going to bring back the RTS franchise, except for The Hobbit. Yeah, not likely. We also had Dog Ace Attorney, which was... Here's the part that I actually found a little interesting. I didn't know this when I read it originally. It's a full-on trailer for The Great Ace Attorney, but it's Dog Ace Attorney, and they actually are using Hayao Miyazaki's Sherlock Hound as a brief appearance in the trailer. So I didn't know that this was not a Capcom-drawn thing. This is Miyazaki. That's even better. So I love that concept. We also, and I would be bereft to not announce this because we have, we don't have a ton of Blizzard fans on this panel, but Aldo and me do like Hearthstone. So I did want to actually bring up these patch notes because I think Aldo would get a giggle out of them. These were actual patch notes that were implemented, I believe, on April Fools.
Okay.
We've implemented a new card type. Ninjas always beat pirate cards. And then we have a couple others, like Snow Chugger is now an 8/8 because it's too cute and people are not taking it seriously enough. Recycle now provides the responsible citizen buff to Malfurion, the druid, when cast. Annoyotron now says goodbye, goodbye, goodbye upon being slain. The spell Blizzard now causes enemy minions to attack soon, TM. We also have Pirates will now always beat the new Ninja subtype because Pirates are obviously better. And then the other one, which is the Call Pet card for Hunters text now reads, "Hello, this is Dog." These were implemented. They are awesome. I love it when Blizzard steps in. In fact, one of the things that happened with April Fools for me is I actually got trolled on April Fools because one of the people in my guild actually brought up, yeah, it's confirmed. World of Warcraft ends on this date. And I'm like, oh, that'd be a great Blizzard joke. And I actually look around for it. No, it wasn't part of the lineup. So kudos to the man who did that.
Though I do have this, who was it? Riot also did a fantastic April Fool's joke.
We're getting to that one. We're
Okay.
getting to that one.
Are you also going to do the Google Maps?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if did you guys play that one?
Yeah.
Pac-Man Google Earth. Oh, that was awesome.
I was told by my boss that I should stop.
That's even better. So we also had the Hyperion dog walking service from Borderlands, which I thought that was great because Handsome Jack is like right on the banner. We also had the League of Legends Oceanic Pro League Chess semifinals. Riot is going Bobby Fischer on your ass. Yes, this happened. We also have.
I meant the Nerf.
Oh yeah, I can't remember what that was. What that one was. It was like a massive League of Legends nerf, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the original Earth they did like years ago was like an intense hyper mode where they would increase the speed of the game.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So they cut down stuff and blah blah blah. Nerf was the negative of that, in which they increased cost to buy items. They increased the price of like the cost of items or attacks that you could do. So the point of it was to extend a league game into 3 or 4 hours.
Mhm.
So they had this giant, extensive list of like nerfs they would do to the game, and then on April Fool's it was revealed that the joke was that, and that the actual Earth mode was coming back the day after.
Nice. Yeah, I remember seeing that for League of Legends, and just like, oh wow, this is not gonna go over well, I don't think. And obviously the other one that I'm going to bring up, because people actually did message me on this, and I just had to raise my eyebrow on it, which was the Romance Central by Harmonix.
Yes.
Nicely done, Harmonix. Going into the dating sims.
That one actually got me because I've been trying to get into visual novel games.
Didn't it?
It did.
Oh my gosh. So those are the biggest ones. Happy April Fools, everybody. I hope you guys found even better jokes. And in fact, leave them in the comments below, because there are so many jokes out there on April Fools, we can't cover them all. So I would love to see, like, I know Domino's had one, I know a couple of other companies did, bring them up, because we would love to be able to see them. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into some of the entertainment stories this week. This actually is kind of an old story, but we're going to bring it up because if we don't, the Shadow Blazer is literally going to throw a temper tantrum on air. As much as that is entertaining for people, I think we'll bring it up. Because now you don't have the zombie plague, and we can actually talk about it.
Yeah.
Is the truth out there, Alex?
The truth is out there, my friend.
The truth is indeed out there, and apparently it's coming back. So it has been confirmed for a while. I guess Fox is in development of a new X-Files revival. Not remake, not remaster. It is a revival of the franchise. So at that point, it will actually involve, and we got these confirmations later, of Fox, David Duchovny, Gillian Anderson, a couple of other characters, including the director Chris Carter, are coming back to do this series. And I'm just going to start with Alex the Shadow Blazer. You are the X-Files fan here. You are X-Files representative tonight.
Yeah.
Excited?
Yeah. You know, I'm excited. I'm especially encouraged the fact that I'm a little sad it's only 6 episodes though. I wish it was at least like say 13. I get it's I get it, it's a revival. They're not going to go all out like 20 episode season here, but I was hoping at least 13 or something. But I'm actually pretty encouraged at least that it's going to do half and half. It's going to get a half Monster of the Week serial format and half Mythos, which is very much what the X-Files was. Even though it wasn't necessarily by design, it was mostly because Gillian Anderson got pregnant, so they had to write a bunch of stuff up quick.
Yes, they did. In fact, wasn't she like pregnant with an alien baby or something like that?
Yeah, that's the in-universe story, but Gillian Anderson really did get pregnant in real life, which is why they had to start finding ways to write her character out temporarily.
Yeah.
And even though I guess the only drawback is that I'm a little nervous was, well, the last X-Files movie wasn't very good, so I hope they can kind of rebound from that.
And kind of went under the radar.
I guess you could say you want to believe this series has a chance.
I want to believe.
I wish I knew a David Duchovny quote to do here, but I actually haven't watched the X-Files. Oh.
I just remember the theme used to scare me and my brothers as a kid.
It scared me too.
It just, whenever that came up, Yeah, whenever that came on, my siblings and I would just run out of the room. We were so scared.
This is basically what happened for me. It's kind of similar, where my dad, my older brother, and my sister to some extent were all hardcore X-Files fans. And this was back in the first seasons where they dealt with a lot of the paranormal. And I was kind of dubbed off as the brother of weak constitution. And so as soon as X-Files started, I was literally picked up, carried into another room, and done something with for an hour. Like, I could not go to that room. I was not allowed. So this is as much connection as I have to X-Files. I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to watching it, but yeah, that's how I know it. I'm like, oh, that's the series that I kept getting carried away and had to go play with my toys somewhere else.
Also appropriate timing because Adam and I have just started an LP of the X-Files for the PlayStation.
Was that a cheap plug?
That was a cheap plug. That was so cheap, there's not even a word for it, how cheap it was.
That
So
was
cheap
so-
that even a dollar store wouldn't want to carry it.
Exactly.
That was so cheap that you could make a budget for an X-Files movie out of that.
Oh.
So I guess the real question is, was it that cheap, Alex? Yes.
Yes.
There you go.
Watch the LP if you don't know what the hell that we're talking about there, but
All right.
yeah.
It's all right. They'll figure it out. Okay, so with the X-Files, Aldo, Romney, are you guys excited at all, or?
I have no real nostalgia attached to the X-Files, so...
Just the fact that I got ripped out of the room.
See, with me, I'm not nostalgic for the X-Files either. I actually got into it I went on a little summer trip, got together with a bunch of friends of mine, and one of my friends who is pretty hardcore into the X-Files, she decided to bring along her DVDs, and so we would just watch them, and, that's when I got into the show, and then as soon as I got back into town, I went to the video store and bought up the first couple seasons, and
Yep.
they really enjoy the series.
Nice.
Yeah, of course, now it's all on Netflix, so if anybody wants to get caught up, they can.
Oh crap! Are you crapping me right now, Romney? Are you blowing my leg?
No, the series is on Netflix.
Crap!
'Cause I
Comment saying you need to watch it because it's on Netflix.
Well, it's just it was in the article that's linked to it. It says, "Hey, get caught up on X-Files. It's now on Netflix."
Damn it! Now we're gonna get comments saying you can't make that excuse, Drac. You can watch it. It's on Netflix. No, I have too much on my docket. All right.
Yeah, or and it's just you could just simply say, "Yes, I know it's on Netflix. I just don't care."
This is true. But then they would go, but you don't care about us? Is that what you're saying? No, I'm not saying that at all.
That's exactly
well,
what he's saying.
Yeah,
What's
we
up?
have nothing but contempt for all of you people watching right now.
Yes. David Duchovny, burn in hell. No, I'm kidding. Because I love it in Evolution. Aldo, do you have any nostalgia for this? I mean, is this something up your alley that you want to get into?
I had a little bit of nostalgia. I watched it when I was very young, so I don't have like any vivid memories.
Okay.
It is a show that I did like, especially once I started getting older, and once I started like understanding the show. I guess you could say that. The thing I'm excited for is the fact that I feel like this is being used to gauge fan interest,
Yes.
and to see if it's worthwhile to create a new series. And this way they kind of see how many old fans jump into it, how many new fans they make, and if it makes good enough, I imagine them just passing on the torch to a new set of actors, letting Duchovny and Gillian.
But not Robert Patrick.
Yeah.
He had his chance.
Right. And
Unless
and
he comes
then-
in as the T-1000, maybe.
right, and letting them retire and just starting a new X-Files show with a new cast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's actually a perfect example because when I saw this announcement and saw specifically the 6 episodes, the first thing that kind of came to me was that whole 24 reboot that they wanted to do that was not going to be that long. So I really just kind of looked at that as gauging interest to see if people are actually still 24 fans or are they not. And that's really what X-Files looked like to me is whether or not Fox could actually make profit still from this franchise. Do I think that the problem is that you're bringing back the original director, you're bringing back the original cast. I think that kind of mucks up the waters a little bit. especially if what you're saying is, oh, you like these 6 episodes? Okay, brand new. Because I don't think Chris Carter would be involved in that at that point. So, I don't know. But I do think it is absolutely for gauging interest.
Yeah.
And who knows? It might actually do well. So the next... What?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say if it does launch off, I'd like to see them hit some more modern urban myths and more paranormal stuff, especially now that we have the internet, because that is something that the lack of information was something that the original X-Files was reliant on. But that's a whole other topic for another day.
You know,
It would be interesting to see them take on something like the Ben storyline, the whole haunted video game thing.
Right, or something even like Slender Man.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't like
Or
Slender
Candle
Man.
Cove. I would definitely want to see them do to tackle Candle Cove, because that would be an interesting thing.
And another idea just popped into my head, Adam. You kind of raised an interesting point that if this spins into a new series, that Chris Carter might not be back for it. But at the same time, I would almost make the argument, well, if Carter himself doesn't come back, maybe he could, say, bring in somebody like Vince Gilligan, who was a story editor and staff writer for much of the original series. And maybe Vince Gilligan somebody like Gilligan could helm a new show.
Could be. I mean, I've seen Joss Whedon do it with David Greenwalt. I mean, because after a while, David Greenwalt just got put, I think it was either Greenwalt or Marty Noxon got just put in charge of Angel, because Joss couldn't keep track of it. So it's entirely possible. So let's go ahead and get into the next story, which is apparently Alex's revenge for the troll comments, even though this came a week before.
Yeah, turn down the volume, people. It's going to get loud.
I'll step the mic away. Is that going to help? All right.
Okay.
So I love how this guy from The Verge actually puts it, because he's asking the exact question that I would ask, which is, we're about to get the Transformers movie universe no one asked for! So basically,
you all still hear people.
Paramount is basically showing their interest in expanding the Transformers films into other properties.
Oh man, Transformers and Fast and the Furious? Yes.
Ronaldo. Because that will probably be viable.
Problem is that Fast and the Furious is owned by Universal, not Paramount.
This is true.
For shame.
So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to take the Transformers films and make them the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So a lot of the suggestions that got brought up, in fact, it's kind of funny because Fast and the Furious is one of the ones that got brought up. The other ones that I've seen on the list that Transformers could cross over with, I'm actually bringing it up right now.
Well, the obvious one they've got would definitely be G.I. Joe, since that's the other big franchise they've got.
Yeah,
and they've
so
crossed
like
over before in the comics. Yeah, like they've crossed over before in the comics, and there's even like a canonical explanation that a character in the Transformers TV show, like the original cartoon, a character in that TV show is actually related to a member of the G.I. Joe squad.
Yeah. The other one that has been brought up, and I'm just going to dissuade this right now because it's never going to happen, is, yes, I know, Marvel did make Transformers comics. That doesn't necessarily mean they're gated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We are not going to see Optimus Prime fighting alongside Iron Man. It ain't happening.
Especially considering that Paramount has Transformers, but they've officially transitioned all the Marvel movies over to Disney now.
Yes.
Does Paramount have, they were Turtles, weren't they?
No, that was No, wait, yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Because Viacom owns Nickelodeon and also is owns Paramount.
Yeah, so
boy.
I think there's a very good chance we're gonna get to see a very horny Michelangelo with a very racist Transformer.
I really have to ask though. I mean, is this really talking about the way I'm getting this article? Is it's just they're more looking to make spin-off films. I'm not really seeing this about connecting to other existing franchises.
No,
that's what they're trying to do.
They're gauging interest on it.
Actually, They
Transformers.
probably would be doing a lot of spin-offs, though, focusing on, like, other characters, because, well, more toys, basically. Like,
Oh
maybe
man.
I figured
Yeah,
it'd
because
be
maybe they'll
good
try to
for-
bring in, like they'll probably have Hot Rod become Rodimus Prime as for a spin-off or something.
Mhm. Or the other thing that I've also seen is kind of a viable concept is, in fact, you kind of brought it up, having a bunch of other Hasbro properties kind of mixed together and creating like the Hasbro expanded universe.
Yeah, so
One of the ones that got brought up to me was Battleship. No.
Ooh, what do you think the chances are we're gonna get Transformers, robots in the hood, to kind of account for all those very racist stereotypes that we're seeing in the Transformer movies.
That actually hurt my head, Aldo.
Also,
And apparently, Oculus Goldsman is in talks to kind of helm this whole side thing.
Yes. Now, the other thing I actually want to point out is this article actually does kind of mention this aspect that Michael Bay is not involved in this concept. He's off doing, I can't remember, he's off doing a Benghazi film, I think. He's going to do the reimagining of the Benghazi events. But he hasn't ruled out the idea, which tells me Transformers 5 is
I
probably...
could imagine both Michael Bay and Steven Spielberg staying on as executive producers through a bunch of more films, so they can produce them, still get money. That's about it.
yeah, and leave it at that, please. Just we don't need Michael Bay at the helm anymore. We never needed him at the helm in the first place. So stay as a producer by all means. But
Can we just bring in Larry DiTillo back so that we actually have a legit Transformers writer writing Transformers stories? I actually got into a debate on this. I was like, can we just bring back a Transformers writer so that, like, if Michael Bay gets put in the director's chair, at least we know the story will be written well, and we won't end up with like a weird Optimus Prime story origin where he's Superman now.
yeah. Of course, weirdest Hasbro crossover we would probably get if they're going to cross over with Hasbro properties. Well, someone's going to make the joke, and there's development on the movie or this property, a crossover with My Little Pony. Someone's going to make that joke.
well, we already have a death battle for Starscream versus Rainbow Dash, so I mean we have that premise already set up.
Dang it, I forgot about that. Starscream versus... Well, no, that created waves, though. Because I don't know how many people came out of that video and just said, Starscream should have won!
Well,
And-
not nearly as bad as the Goku versus Superman fight.
Oh yeah, that was their controversy getter right there. So let's go ahead and get into the next movie because I'm gonna raise my voice again. The Transformers movies are really just pissing me off right now.
Well, yeah, and just to add one final thought, a crossover with Ninja Turtles probably wouldn't be that far off because, well, Ninja Turtles crossed over with Power Rangers. So,
Yep.
God, I
That's right.
remember that.
so really, there's no real standard for any major Ninja Turtles crossover, at least in a live-action context, so them crossing with Transformers wouldn't be nearly that weird.
By the way, that was something both James Rolfe and Doug Walker neglected to mention in their crossover review of the Ninja Turtles movie, was the Power Rangers crossover.
Yes.
Well, that's probably because they probably would have had to bring in Linkara, since he's the resident Power Rangers fan, so...
Yeah. I mean, he'd have to be brought in to talk about that. And
It was a weird episode, people. You're not missing much.
Yeah. It was supposed to advertise a Turtle series that bombed, and yeah, that's all we really need to mention on the matter. So the next article here, people have noticed that I've made my intentions very clear on these films. But the live-action Disney films, particularly Maleficent, I was not fond of. I had major problems with it, especially since they took one of my more favorite Disney villains and kind of destroyed the character. So that's kind of my issue with it. And I have been getting asked, have I seen Cinderella yet? No. I don't know if I will, probably with my wife, but I haven't seen it.
I've been hearing some good things about it, though.
Yes.
Since it doesn't try to do the whole grim, dark reboot, and it's just a straightforward telling of the story.
And I'm trying to remember, was Snow White and the Huntsman under a Disney banner? I don't think it was.
No.
No, Disney hasn't actually come out with their Snow White film yet. They have one in development called The Order of the Seven, which was initially Snow and the Seven. And it's basically Seven Samurai mixed with Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. But I'm guessing they have it stuck in development hell because the market is kind of petered off. But it was going to compete with Snow White the Huntsman and Mirror Mirror.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, Snow and the Seven. I took a screenwriting class when I was at Utah Valley. My screenwriter teacher, he was the co-writer for that movie, and yeah, that's been stuck. He's mentioned how much that's been stuck in development hell forever.
Yep. So one of the things that has come out is that since live action apparently is the thing for Disney, they are going to, and I'd heard this a while ago, so this story is not necessarily a stretch for me, that they wanted to go down the line and actually do live action adaptations for as many as they could. To which actually brought up this story, which is a live action remake of Mulan is planned from Disney. Now, where the internet thinks I'm going to react horribly, I'm on the fence. I'm not against the idea, but I'm not exactly hyped for it either.
Yeah.
So,
It's an idea that can be very easily screwed up. I mean, especially if they want to try bringing in a Chinese studio in on it just so that they can make sure the film gets released there. So, I mean, if they actually give the story of the actual Fa Mulan like some dignity instead of trying to reduce it to just a typical Disney fare, if they actually took this live action version and decided to do it as a nice, like, serious telling of the story, it could work. But it could also be very easily screwed up in the sense of, oh, well, we got to make it like the Disney film, complete with the talking dragon.
Well, and I guess
we're gonna go 10 steps further, Romney. We have to bring back Eddie Murphy to voice him.
no, you wouldn't.
No, it would be Kevin Hart. Let's face it, Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
It's not much of a draw, so they'd get Kevin Hart.
But here's the thing. I mean, none of us have seen Cinderella, which heavily features, anthropomorphic animals and kind of magical elements.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that, so we haven't seen how much they implement the animals into their live action stuff. It could be that we see a mostly normal retelling of Fa Mulan without Mushu.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, no,
Because
same
although
here.
the whole animal thing would work with Cinderella, it wouldn't necessarily work with Mulan, especially considering that there are actually quite a few pretty bad stereotypes of Chinese culture in that film that a lot of people would probably have a problem with.
Yeah. Well, and the other problem that comes to me is I like Mulan. It's one of the few later Disney movies that I still attach to. I still like the premise of the story, and it's actually one of the few sequels where I didn't have problems with it. The direct-to-DVD sequels that they like to dig out of the vault every now and then. I don't hate the idea, but obviously my reference here is to go back to Maleficent because this is Disney's record, at least as far as I know. And I didn't like the ideas that they went with in that film. I don't like the idea that they tried to justify that Maleficent was a hero all along. And I'm not spoiling because statute of limitations, guys.
Well, yeah,
But-
plus we already did a whole video discussing trying to fix Maleficent, so if
Yes.
we'll put a link in the description of this video. You can watch that. We tried finding a way to fix it.
We did. And they tried to convince me. And some of it was bought, some of it was not. But that's the part that I'm concerned with. I do still like Mulan as a character, and I'm worried that a live-action retelling would kill that, especially since you're right. A lot of stereotypes were used, a lot of hot buttons were in it, and on top of that, the addition of little animal characters, I just don't know how you do that.
I mean, maybe if you brought in, like, say...
I will
off the
say,
top of my head-
I will say to Maleficent's credit, they did it well. Like we had the Raven, but that's not a guarantee.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you probably do... I think a good approach is you'd want to bring in a director who would know how to adapt that kind of a period film. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily need to use, like, an actual Chinese filmmaker, although I would be curious how the film would look if they brought in, say, Sammo Hung to direct the Mulan adaptation. Granted, probably not the best choice, but that's the only Chinese director I know of. Unless they decide to bring in Zhang Yimou, maybe, would probably be a pretty good choice now that I think about it.
And it's also another question of how many Asian actors they could get in. I would personally love to see Ming Hua, who did the voice and she's currently May in the Agents of Shield series. But I think she's a little too old for the character at this point.
Yes.
But it'd be a question of casting as well. I know they would love to have Jackie Chan come back and do something with the film, but I think he's also too old to be like a main character in the series.
Well, yeah, of all the actors they might bring in, one of the Chinese actors that has become kind of popular would be Fan Bingbing. They'd probably bring her as Mulan, and they'd probably want I don't know. They would probably try to bring in as much Asian talent as they could, but granted, it would be Asian talent that also can speak fairly good English. So they'd probably get someone like John Cho to play as a key character. Not sure who, but they'd probably bring him in.
I'm just spitballing this right now. Ken Watanabe as Sean Yu?
That's a very. I mean, especially if they decide to release the film in China, I mean, on the one hand, they probably would enjoy the fact that they have a Japanese actor playing a villain, and I mean, they did it before with Hideki Kikuchi, if I'm pronouncing it right, in Ip Man. It's the guy who plays Zolo in the One Piece anime.
Sure.
But given that it's a story set in China, it's supposed to be Mongol, just speaking from like knowledge of how things are still kind of tense between China and Japan as a result of the occupation during World War II, probably not a good casting choice. I mean, Watanabe could do it, but they'd have to do a lot of PR to try to.
That's really why I was saying that. I don't think it's possible, but he kind of fits.
Yeah,
I think
a lot of people. You kind of remind me because a lot of people were pretty upset with Memoirs of a Geisha, where they used a lot of both Chinese and Japanese actresses in that film. Personally, I thought it was a great film, but I kind of get it. There's still tension there.
I think it's also a question of how much of this is it going to be fighting? Are we going to see a whole lot of sword fighting, and how intense is that going to be? I mean, would it be worth not getting Watanabe and maybe getting a better martial artist than an actor?
Yeah.
I guess that's, I think that's another kind of thing to look at, is how much of this action do we want to take up instead of musical sequences.
Yeah, the problem also is that I have heard tell that they were talking to, I can't remember his name, but the guy the stunt coordinator for Crouching Tiger, and doing a lot of stuff like that. And I'm not against the idea, but I also don't want this just being called a Crouching Tiger knockoff kind of thing. And that's the problem you kind of run with that. Now, from the actual Mulan cast, they actually do bring up a couple of people that could be brought back in. So I'm just going to bring up these ideas. James Hong could be brought back because he was the royal advisor. He could come back and play that. James Hong's done that before. George Takei.
Well, technically Japanese.
Japanese.
And technically he was just a cameo.
Yes, he was just. I think it was just a cameo appearance. You brought up B.D. Wong. Another one that gets brought up is Miguel Ferrer. I don't know who that is, actually, right off the top of my head. But I really just think that if they were going to do this, they would start fresh. They would not bring in people that you would expect.
I wonder if Donnie Yen would at all be a worthy investment for the movie.
Yeah, because I could see Donnie Yen as Shang. That would actually be pretty cool. But I don't know if he actually can speak English very well to actually have them make that investment. That's kind of like a hurdle there.
Then you kind of get into the whole, they might cast like Chinese actors, but they might have to dub them over ADR stuff.
Yeah, which...
I'm kind of really nervous about this because it's Disney and all. It's an American company. They're going to want to appeal to the American audience. So
but at the same time, they would want to also have the film appeal to a global audience because the movie industry in China, there's a lot of box office dollars there. And because of the fact that they only let 20 foreign films into the country per year, except for the fact that if a Chinese production company is involved, they get a free pass. So they're going to want to have it appeal to Chinese audiences as well to get that extra money.
Hence why we had so many freaking Chinese scenes in
Iron
Transformers.
Yeah, Transformers, Iron Man 3. A lot of films have been shooting in China for that reason.
Exactly.
Well, I'm also disappointed Jerry Goldsmith is no longer around to provide the movie's score. I love Jerry Goldsmith's score for the animated Mulan.
Oh man, this means we might not get a live-action version of To Be a Man. Make a man out of you.
Well, yeah, but that's another thing, because I know from what I've heard, the live-action Cinderella isn't a musical, and so they may be doing a live-action adaptation, so they probably won't necessarily be making it as a musical.
Yeah,
Yes, sad day.
it is because I actually do love that song. So I would have loved to have seen if anything, we'll get an inspired one, and it won't be as good.
Well, yeah, they probably would have Jackie Chan singing it, though, because that would be a good way to draw audiences in. And a lot of people think, oh, yeah, it's silly, but the guy can sing.
Well, he did it for the first one.
Yeah, he did it for the Chinese dub of Mulan. He did it. He was the singing voice of Shang.
I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with that, but really the director would be doing this because it's simply Jackie Chan, and that's kind of the issue that I have with it. So I'm at least open to the idea. I'm more on the fence. I'm not against the idea of this happening because obviously we're gonna get Cinderella has happened. We're gonna get Snow White probably at some.
We're getting Winnie the frickin' Pooh.
And Dumbo.
Live-action Winnie the Pooh.
Live action Winnie the Pooh. I just posted this in Geek News like a day or so ago.
Yep. And Dumbo. Don't forget.
Dumbo.
Yeah, and Tim Burton's Dumbo, and then we're also. I know that there is talk of Beauty and the Beast.
But yeah, Emma Watson's been cast. I know that much. I think they even have a director signed on.
So that's happening. Let's go ahead and get into the next story here, which was a mysterious tweet that was sent by Hugh Jackman, basically saying, and I love that everybody has taken this for realsies. I'm not kidding. Everybody has. And I just don't know if I necessarily agree with it because he said it before. And that is that Wolverine 3 will be one last time. That's literally his tweet. Wolvie, one last time. So I'm just saying I'm not saying I don't believe him. Eventually he will leave this role. But I love the fact that the internet has gone, oh my gosh, we'll miss Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and then he'll come back for Apocalypse.
Yeah, and well, it's one thing. He's also said this a couple of times before. He's already said, I think I'm done with it. And then they announce a new movie, and he's like, I'm back on board, ladies and gents.
I'm in. They're doing great things.
How dare you recast me, Hugh Jackman? No.
Yeah, but he is getting on in years. I mean, he can't do the role forever. He can't.
I agree.
Because I mean, he does a lot of exercising in order to maintain it. And so it's kind of the case of there's going to be a point where he'll have to step away from the role. I mean,
most definitely.
I mean, he's doing it for like 17 years or so now. So.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's been that long.
Step away, and I'm not against that. I'm just saying he's going to do it as long as he can possibly do it. And if that means that he can make Apocalypse work, he'll make Apocalypse work. I'm not saying he won't do it. I actually like the idea. I especially since I just saw Chappie, because he played a really good villain in that. So I'd love to see what else he could do. But at the same time, if the need arises, I could totally see him coming back as Logan. I think he likes the role more than he's willing to admit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's also one of those things where I imagine, I think he said he's already kind of signed on to do like Apocalypse plus the X-Force movie and the Deadpool movie. I thought.
Yeah, he's
because I mean there is
contract.
Well, yeah, because there's some contractual stuff that he would still have to honor, but it's still just a kind of a case that it's getting pretty close that he'll have to step away from the role after a while. I mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's actually also contracted for Gambit too. I didn't even know that. He's contracted for Channing Tatum's Gambit.
Yeah.
So that's 3 movies where he's going to be playing this role. Even for 5 seconds, he will be Logan.
I honestly feel that the second or like the moment he leaves the series, it's as good as any moment to hand the franchise back over to Marvel.
Yes.
I doubt that's going to happen though.
I doubt it's going to happen.
Especially now that they've brought in Mark Miller to be the consultant to kind of guide their Marvel properties. I doubt they're gonna give it up.
Nope.
I mean, that's why Marvel's canceling the comic run or like ending the comic run around the time that the movies are going to be coming out.
Yep. Now, one thing that this article does bring up that I think is actually kind of interesting is they actually counted up how many times Jackman has played Wolverine. Wolverine 3 will be his 8th go-around. Now, a lot of people think that might not be that much, but the comparison that the story does make from Rolling Stone is that Sean Connery and Roger Moore portrayed James Bond 7 times. So Wolverine has technically done more than that. The only one that he hasn't done is the late Leonard Nimoy, where he played Spock 8 times. So that is actually a nice little nod to the fact that he's already done lots of films as Wolverine. And some good, some bad, but he's done them. And at this point, I have no problem with him at least doing cameos. It's fun.
Well, yeah, and in my opinion, just for the sake of the franchise, I think we do kind of need to get away from telling stories focused on Wolverine, because there's a sizable cast of characters that we can all focus on. Problem is that Wolverine's been taking too much of the spotlight, which is why they're doing these separate spin-off movies focusing on Gambit and Deadpool. And so I think once he's done with the role, they probably shouldn't make Wolverine movies for a while to kind of allow the other characters their moments to shine a little bit.
In fact, I would wait a little bit, because a lot of people brought up, well, if you're not going to do Wolverine, bring in X-23. And I would say even wait on that a little bit, because there has been storylines where she's kind of, I think, Wolverine's daughter.
She is Wolverine's clone, but then there's Wolverine's actual son, Daken, that people would want brought in as well, but that...
No.
The world's not ready for Daken.
They're really not.
Film.
No.
So,
I honestly think that they could really delve into Bobby's storyline and his powers, because him and Beast in the comics go through second evolutions, and it'd be interesting to see that brought to the comics. Yeah.
Maybe how about some time to actually devote to maybe the relationship between Colossus and Shadowcat, because that's actually well, yeah, because although Kitty Pryde got her moment to shine in Days of Future Past, in the films prior to that, she didn't really get much attention at all.
Nope. And also the same thing can be said of Colossus. He got a full-on role in X2, which petered out into nothing, and then eventually they brought him back for Days of Future Past. So I would actually like to see that character being brought up, also just because I like Peter Rasputin as an overall character.
And that would also mean an introduction to his sister, even, Magic.
Yes.
Well, yes.
I wouldn't hate
Especially considering that they're wanting to go and explore things with Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch as well. There's that all aspects with exploring kind of Magneto's family lineage and all of that. And basically, there's a lot of other characters in the X-Men universe that could use some attention. And so... maybe when Hugh Jackman steps away, let's take a break from Wolverine. Let's explore some of these other characters. Let's actually get a good version of Pixie for a change.
You brought it up, and now I need to make sure that this isn't true, because I've actually heard that there's a possibility it will be. We are not going down the Ultimates storyline with those two.
Yeah. Nobody... Knowing Fox, they would not take that risk, at all. That would be like...
I've actually heard that they would consider it. And I'm like, no. Well,
I think they would not do it out of the fear to look like they're copying Marvel, because Marvel is definitely doing a lot of the Ultimate stories, and I feel like maybe Fox would want to stay away from that.
Well, that and just the backlash they would get from non-comics fans, from the Bible-thumping people, and probably even Fox News. They don't want to piss those people off.
Oh, no, definitely.
Those are their moviegoers.
First of all, it's a terrible, terrible relationship and storyline, in my opinion, having actually read the comics. But, yeah.
So let me clarify this for people who don't know what the crap we're talking about. So Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch have been confirmed for Avengers 2. It just so happens that in at least the storyline that I know, they are the son and daughter of Magneto. I believe Pietro is the older. I can't remember.
Yes.
I can't remember.
Pietro's the older one.
Which one?
He's the older of the two.
He's the elder. So then at that point, one of the storylines that they did in the Ultimates comics was that him and his sister were an item.
They had an incestuous relationship.
Yes. So,
and I don't think either Fox or Marvel are ever going to try adapting that because, well...
Oh, that was hard to read. So, at that point, and here's the problem, too. I actually read tweets like they were considering the option. I'm like, don't even consider it. It's ruled out. If you even consider the option, you are going to get protested.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot consider this option. It's not one. So at that point, when I read the tweets like, this is being considered, no. I want this to be good, especially with Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch.
Guys, Firefox is crashing. I think I'm going to get booted out.
Well, so we unfortunately have a few other stories, but we actually are running out of time this week, so we will bring them over to the next week, and probably a good thing because in April we will have some Netflix stuff to talk about, which will
yeah.
So, and if Romney gets booted out, I will do his marathon. Who knows? Maybe I'll break the record. I don't know. So in the meantime, this is actually going to do it for this show. We will be back next week to cover the stories that we didn't cover this week, but also the new stuff that will be happening in April and all that fun stuff. And Romney has rejoined us. Yay! So he can do his whole spiel. But we are getting close to the end of the show, so if people want to get a hold of us or want to give us feedback on our opinions on said articles or anything like that, Aldo, how do they get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter at Aldo531. You can also find me on boardoffline.net, as well as various YouTube channels, such as Board Offline, such as Anime Overdub ES, such as Reviews versus the World.
And I think Reviews versus the World actually has something going up right now that is being pulled.
Yeah. So we're doing a March Madness thing, which is just about over. We've actually finished all that whole thing up, and what it is, we each put up 4 different things that we would review that were kind of in our territory. Mine were, of course, Japanese based, so I had like Dead or Alive, a couple anime on there. And so the point was to see who would get the most votes, and that would decide our next podcast. So our next podcast, full of grown, middle-aged men, is about the Gilmore Girls. So we're gonna be doing this podcast live at the Nerd Store in Valley Fair Mall in West Valley City. At around 7, we're going to be doing that there and drawing out the winners of the March Madness and see who wins.
Okay.
So if you're so inclined, you're always more than welcome to go and see us there and see what we're doing and be there for our live podcast recording where we talk about Gilmore Girls.
I'm going to have to tell my wife about that.
Yeah.
Because she's a Gilmore Girls fan.
Oh, yeah, so we're all watching several episodes in preparations of.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right, Alex, how do people get a hold of the Shadow Blazer?
Of course, my name is Shadow Blizzard 3000. I am here on YouTube. I like to make anime reviews, and I like to do other stuff too. So please check out my channel anytime you want to see what anime I've watched. Now that it's April and a few of the spring anime are coming out, I'm gonna have a few first impressions videos. Still waiting on the new Digimon season. I still don't know when that's coming out. It's supposed to be April, but I don't see a date, and Toei won't tell me. So
I'm so excited.
Yeah, too.
You actually had a recent video go up on the channel.
I did. I just put up my review of the first Cardcaptor Sakura movie. It took me 3 years to finally do the Cardcaptor Sakura movie because I promised, because Cardcaptor Sakura was my first review ever on my channel. So yeah, it's finally up, and guess what? The second movie will be coming up in the week.
Nice. All right. Romney, how do people get a hold of you?
All right, get out your stopwatches, everyone. You can always find me on youtube.com/StudioPhantasma. That's Phantasma with an F. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Romney'sReviews with no apostrophe. You can also find me on Twitter at RomneyReviews. You can also find me on MoviePilot at moviepilot.com/ROMNE. And if you want to ask questions directly and don't want to use Twitter, I will answer them to the best of my ability unless they're completely stupid. You can do so at spring.me/AskRomney.
Very nice. And also, you do have a review up this week for Fast and the Furious 7.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it?
It's Furious 7.
Furious 7, that's what it is. So that will also be up there, and we will be putting up links to all these new entries. In fact, I don't know, I might actually make an appearance over at the Gilmore Girls podcast, because that might be fun.
Yeah.
So if people want to get a hold of me directly, you can do so at this channel, which you are actually watching, Drac2326. It is my channel where Geek News is hosted. Also, I do LPs on the channel of not only the Final Fantasy series, but also modern games. Me and my wife are tackling The Last of Us right now, so you get to listen to her love it and me rage about it. So you have that. Also, if you want to get a hold of the show directly, there are one other thing. If you want to contact me on Twitter and say I'm full of crap because I apparently hate Lauren Lanning, you can do so at twitter.com/Drac2326. If you want to contact the show directly, there are 3 ways to do it. First of all is geekyweek@gmail.com. You can leave comments on the stories that we covered, as well as be able to offer up stories that you think we should be covering. And also, if you have any feedback for the show, like any segments you would like us to bring up, we do read that to figure out if we can actually do it. So feel free to do so. Also, if you guys didn't know, and I did advertise this last week, we actually opened up a new show called Gaming with the Geeks, where we did Smash Brothers for 2 hours and had absolute fun about it, and talked about how much Jigglypuff is a raving psychopath. So you guys can all enjoy that. It's on the Geek News playlist. Second way you can contact us is at GeekyNRO. That's GeekyNRO at Twitter, and you can leave comments and also see when we're going live. The best resource, however, to see when we're going live is Facebook, and you can look up Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions and like it, and you will get up-to-date information on when we're going live, when we have specific stories maybe we want your feedback on, things like that. We actually have a lot of plans for this summer, so we love to hear feedback from people on that stuff, especially since we want to bring in your ideas as well. But that's going to go ahead and do it for this week. So for me, for Romney, for Aldo, and for the Shadow Blazer himself, we will see you next week for more Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions.